birds, although they're very capable flyers, do most of their hunting on the ground. So now imagine a stork that's about 15 or 20 feet tall, about as tall as a giraffe. It was probably scouring the landscape for all kinds of small things, including baby dinosaurs.
But there will be no hunt today. The shock wave roars toward them and blows them apart. The shock wave advances. Even the mighty T-Rex, unable to find cover, won't survive. The only animals to survive do so by sheer luck, sheltered in caves or by hillsides. From relative safety, they watch the catastrophe unfold.
The animals are already disoriented and confused. Some of them have probably been killed outright by the strength of the shockwave. And the shocked survivors are milling around, not sure what to do, and now fires are starting all over the place.
The shockwave lays waste to the entire continental United States. Any open ground smolders. This place is battered to death, broken and charred. Nature played no favorites between predator or prey, parents or children. A small mammal in a burrow hole heads to the surface to investigate. Our ancestor, Purgatorius. She ventures out. Lucky for us, the future of the human race is still possible because her burrow protected this small, relatively unknown animal.
You can invert the familiar phrase, you can hide, but you can't run. Hiding was the key, sheltering was the key. And dinosaurs could not shelter. They didn't dig, and they didn't swim, so there was no shelter available to them.
10 minutes after the impact, the shock wave dissipates. Its energy spent before it crosses into Canada. Incredibly, animals outside of its reach still may not have known that disaster had struck. For these Triceratops, it is a day like any other. Triceratops is an iconic dinosaur. They're 9 feet tall and weigh as much as 26,000 pounds. Their bony frills may look like a shield, but they were probably used in mating rituals, with intricate designs on them meant to attract mates.
Triceratops and the other horned dinosaurs were social animals, just as we find with antelope on the African plains today. So picture a giant herd of antelope, only these aren't the antelope that weigh maybe half a ton. These are Triceratops that weigh 3 or 4 or 5 tons, and there might be hundreds or even thousands of them in the herd, adults and juveniles and babies all together. The adults are probably protecting the younger individuals.
Then, a distant rumbling. Suddenly, the earth shakes. This is the worst earthquake they've ever felt. The worst earthquake in the 600 million year history of life on Earth.
The very impact itself caused a magnitude 13 earthquake, hundreds of times stronger than any earthquake that we've ever recorded or felt. It would knock down buildings all over North America if one of that size occurred today. It would knock down buildings in China.
Certainly, the earthquake itself would have knocked everybody off their feet. Fissures in the earth would have opened up here and there. You could have certainly had dinosaurs falling into cracks in the earth. But again, the earthquake's not going to kill off too much. The earthquake, of course, is just the beginning of a series of calamities.
The superquake ripples across the world, triggering enormous landslides as far away as Antarctica. For most animals on Earth, this quake was the first inkling they had that the end had come. "30 minutes have passed since the impact. The quake still rattles the earth. The aftershocks will continue for days, but there are some who still tenaciously cling to life. But now, a frightening new dimension of this dinosaur Armageddon is revealed. Colossal tsunamis are on their way. Immense walls of death, like entire mountain ranges on the march. There's no turning back. It is now 45 minutes after the impact. For animals far away from ground zero, in Africa, Asia, Europe, or Antarctica, the true disaster has not yet arrived. Those that live near the coast will soon see death approaching. The ocean heaves from the violence of impact. Giant mega tsunamis form.
Tidal wave rushes out from ground zero in concentric waves. There would have been more than one of them. There would have been several probably. And they're moving out at very rapid speeds.
The mega tsunamis race across the Atlantic at over 600 miles per hour, faster than the speed of sound. On a coastline in what is now West Africa, dinosaurs are just beginning to recover from the earthquake. The water pulls away from shore, an eerie sight.
On the horizon would be a little dark line, which is the wave, the tsunami, that's coming closer and closer. Only as it gets closer, it doesn't stay a little dark line, it gets higher and higher and higher. Takes them with everything else, the trees, the debris, the logs, mixes them all up in a big flood and scatters them across the landscape.
The tsunami that hit Asia near Christmas time a couple of years ago was amplitude of a few meters. And here you're talking hundreds of meters.
The mega tsunami rages across the globe. No coastline is left untouched. Even sea creatures, like the giant mosasaur, are caught up in the powerful currents, carried toward shore and inevitable death. A few frantic moments of struggle, then nothing. Closer to ground zero, along the Gulf Coast of the United States, the waves have completely submerged low-lying areas. The storm surge from Hurricane Katrina was 28 feet deep. This surge of water is over 1,000 feet deep. If it happened today, cities as far north as Nashville or St. Louis would be drowned in hundreds of feet of seawater.
After the tsunami hits and deposits all this water on the land, it washes back. It just like you see an ordinary wave hits the shore and then washes back.
The water retreats with enough force to scour an entirely new landscape in the southern U.S. New hills, new valleys, new canyons, all littered with dead animals.
It would have been sort of like the after effect of a tornado, where everything that's on the landscape has just been all jumbled together and then strewn.
The land continues to drain, carrying the bodies of millions of animals out to sea.
I have this vision of these poor drowned dinosaurs, some floating and all the rest, as you get out to sea and it quiets down, sort of sinking from the surface down into the depths. And imagine that you're some marine reptile that survived it. And now all around you is raining dinosaurs. Literally, drowned dinosaurs sinking like little petals down to the bottom. So again, nothing in our imaginations, in our history, would prepare us for seeing this.
5 hours after impact, the heaving oceans begin to settle. In the aftermath of global disaster, what is surprising now is not how many have died, but how many have survived. In pockets around the globe, battered survivors struggle to understand what has happened to their world. Yet still another threat gathers. The sky is indeed falling. The world changes, whether we like it or not. Ralph Waldo Emerson, 1872. 6 hours after impact, the arid plains of Mongolia seem strangely normal. The canopy of fire hasn't reached here yet. In this place, cousins of the North American troodon, small carnivores called Byronosaurus, stalk the plentiful herds of Protoceratops. Protoceratops is very similar to the more famous Triceratops. Its jaws are perfectly adapted to feed on the desert brush.
It had a big beak for biting plants, and it had shearing teeth on the sides of its jaws for chopping its plants, and cheeks to hold the food in while it was being chewed. So it was already a very efficient processor of plant material.
But Protoceratops is not designed for combat. And in this savage world, it's a fatal flaw. But the drama is cut short. The rain of fire sweeps in, consuming this place too. Further away from Ground Zero in the Yucatan, the meteors are smaller. Incredible as it may seem, most are no bigger than a grain of sand.
In the Atlantic Ocean, there are glass beads, beds of glass beads, because all of this molten rock flies out in the atmosphere and comes raining back down as glass or molten glass.
7 hours after impact, the entire planet feels like it's burning to the ground. There are no rules for Armageddon, no guidelines for these vulnerable creatures. Only instinct, and every instinct inside their bodies screams, run. In the skies over what is now Alberta, 2 Quetzalcoatls are caught in the storm. There is nowhere to hide for these giant beasts, with wingspans as large as an F-16 fighter jet. They are battered to death by the flaming rocks. Surface temperatures spike within a few hours. It's unbearably hot, hot enough to boil rivers. Fires break out in every corner of the globe, consuming the dead and dying. In all, 20 million megatons worth of energy scorches planet Earth.
If you divide 20 million megatons by the surface area of the Earth, you discover that that's equivalent to 1 megaton every 6 kilometers or so. A hydrogen bomb every 6 kilometers around the entire planet on a time scale of a few hours.
It is a miracle that anything survived this cataclysm. It is now 10 hours after impact. The world is completely unrecognizable. Billions have died in wave after wave of disaster. Yet still, some remarkable animals persist. Purgatorius huddles beneath the ground, waiting out the storm. While the world of the dinosaurs crumbles, our ancient ancestor does what it must to survive. Lay low, ration food, and don't go outside. From its burrow hole, it may have heard the mournful death throes of a dying world. The powerful may soon fall, and it will be the meek who may well inherit the earth. It is now 14 hours since a 6-mile-wide asteroid slammed into Earth, ushering in a global cataclysm, a dinosaur Armageddon. Night descends, a night from which the dinosaurs will not emerge. Ground Zero in the Yucatan is a smoldering cauldron, sterilized of life. A massive rim, 150 miles in diameter, marks the boundary. A ring of mountains, raised in minutes, rising 3 miles off the sea floor. It will take millions of years for them to erode away. In the debris left behind by the impact, people will one day find blades of crystallized carbon, tiny diamonds, which testify to the ferocious temperatures of impact.
We have this enormous set of events on a scale that we had not seen for 600 million years, for the entire age that multicellular life or animals were living on the planet. An incredible event.
Within a 1,000-mile radius, there is virtually nothing left alive. Within 3,000 miles, only insects and small animals. You need to travel 5,000 miles from the impact site to find any dinosaurs alive. And when you do, they are almost always alone. These lucky few inhabit a shattered landscape of uprooted trees, falling rock debris, and raging fires. No one can be sure exactly how the brains of these dinosaurs worked. But clearly, this was more destruction than any animal brain had been asked to comprehend before.
One can't imagine the panic or the chaos associated with those early events after the asteroid. They would have essentially been thrust into a situation of sensory overload. A great deal of noise, some of it natural due to all the various physical things that were going on in the environment, but also much of it induced by animals yelping in pain, panicking, honking, searching for mates. It would have been chaotic.
In just this first day, the dinosaurs' fate was sealed. Scientists don't know for certain how quickly they disappeared. Perhaps hours, perhaps days, months, or years.
I think almost everyone would agree that the world of the dinosaurs fell apart faster than we can recognize in the sediments. But from the standpoint of ecosystemic change, which is really what we care about here, it doesn't matter whether it took 1 day, 1 year, 100 years, 1,000 years, because ultimately there was a significant fundamental ecosystem turnover between the end of the Cretaceous and the beginning of the Tertiary.
Any life being created in a harsh universe is a miracle. Losing so much so suddenly is an apocalypse. After 150 million years of ruling the world, the dinosaurs fade away to extinction. Their fossilized bones, the only testament that they ever existed at all. We are the beneficiaries of their demise, because their death paved the way for our ancient ancestors to inherit the earth. Perhaps there is something for us to learn from this swift and catastrophic extinction, that nothing lasts forever. Nature can brutally topple even the most dominant creatures. There may be an asteroid or comet circling our solar system right now with mankind's name written on it.
If the same event that killed the dinosaurs were to suddenly appear in the sky, it would take a lot more than Bruce Willis to save human civilization. These movies, Deep Impact and Armageddon, gave us this false sense of security of, wow, we can nudge them, we can move them, we can do something. You can on a small asteroid. A big one, no. It's not going to be possible to move a big one out of the way. Anything KT size or larger, if it's going to hit us, it's going to hit us, and nothing humans can do are going to stop it.